Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I firstly, most importantly, before anything, want to apologize for my absence. I was home for almost 3 weeks and now I have COVID, so I'm stuck inside, but it gives me time to film videos for you guys. So anyway, today I am doing my term 1 recap of my foundation at London College of Fashion, and I'm actually very excited because a lot of you guys have been asking me a lot of questions on my previous videos, and I kind of wanted to answer those questions and give you guys an overview of what term 1 looks like for the international preparation for fashion at London College of Fashion. So let's get started. Term 1. So I started on the 27th of September and I finished on December 10th. Term 1 was a stressful one. Basically, how term 1 is laid out. Term 1 is basically a diagnostic term. So when you're in foundation, if you don't necessarily know if you're going into design, business, or media for fashion, well, foundation permits you to kind of get a taste of each one before deciding. So you have what we call rotation weeks. So 1 week you're gonna do design, 1 week you're gonna do media, 1 week you're gonna do business. And then you also have weeks such as drawing and contextual skills and kind of like side subjects that you need for all 3 pathways. So that's rotation 1. I think it lasts about 5 or 6 weeks. And so every week you have a different subject. At the end of each week, for example, end of design week, you will have completed 4 to 8 A3 pages that you will include in your portfolio at the end of term 1. After rotation 1, you have 1 week, which is called tutorial week, where you will present all your work done so far to your personal tutor. You can ask questions to them and they will give you feedback about your work. And you will have 1 week to complete your work from rotation 1. During that tutorial week, you will also discuss with your personal tutor which pathway you will want to go into for term 2 and 3, and also in the future for your undergraduate course. We then receive a questionnaire that week where we submit our first, second, and third choice of pathway. Then comes rotation 2 of term 1, where you will only do 2 pathways out of the 3. So I, for instance, did media and business, because I wasn't sure between media and business, but you have to pick 2. Rotation 2 only lasts 2 weeks, and during those 2 weeks, you will do 1 week your first option, 2nd week your second option, or vice versa. And then at the end of each of those 2 weeks, you will have, again, 4 to 8 A3 pages, which you will include in your final portfolio of your work. And afterwards, you had to make a decision on which pathway you want to go into. Usually, typically, you will choose one pathway that you did in rotation 2. So because I did media or business, I would either pick between media and business. I picked media, so I submitted media, but here's the catch. The teachers will look at your work and will assign you which pathway you are going into. You only give kind of what you want to go into, but it's not the final decision. So for instance, if you want to go into media, but your portfolio screams business, they will not put you into media, they will put you into business. They kind of have the eye for that. I mean, they see 200 students a year, so they know what each pathway needs and looks for. Something else I would like to say is a lot of people want to go into design. I couldn't tell you the exact percentage, but I would say over 50% want to go into design. It's super competitive and it's really, really tough. However, before starting foundation, I wanted to go into design. And once I did my design week kind of trial thing, I realized design just wasn't for me. Personally, I could go into a whole other video about why design wasn't for me at the end, but I felt like media was just the better option. I was really debating in between media and business. I really didn't know which one I wanted, but media was a little more creative and less kind of cookie cutter shaped than business, which is something that I really appreciated when we did media. So that's kind of how term 1 goes down. Every Friday you also have cultural studies, which it's basically what it is. It's cultural studies, and that is every Friday, and you have no other class apart from that. I had class about 4 days a week. Sometimes I only had 3 days a week, but every week you always have a day off to like catch up with your work and all that, which is so helpful. Let me tell you, when I first started the schedule, I was like, we have so many days off. Trust me, you're gonna need it. You're going to need it. Another advice is don't procrastinate, because the work comes up quick, and if you're not done your work from design week and then you jump into media week, you're gonna be lost 4 to 8 pages doesn't seem a lot, but that's 4 to 8 pages for each week that you're doing. And it's a lot, and you also have to come up with all of it. It's not like written in a book. You have to come up with all that creativity. And it's also not only about the work you produce, but also how you present your work. Don't worry, you do have classes for Photoshop that are mandatory to go to, which will teach you all about layout and portfolios and all that. So don't worry if you don't know how to use any of those things, because they will teach you. So my personal take on term 1, I think I absolutely fell in love with fashion school. Like, absolutely. I still can't believe I'm doing that. Like, to me, personally, it doesn't really feel like school. It kind of just feels like I'm going to art class after school. And I also believe that if you do go to art school, it's kind of willingly. I mean, in most cases, it is willingly because you want to go. And I think that's very motivating. Another advice that I would give myself at the start of term 1 would be, don't compare yourself to others, because there are people that are so talented, so talented. I had at least like 3 breakdowns because I was like, my work is not up to standard. And it's just a lot of pressure because you're all competing because you want to get to that place. It's not like high school where you're just doing it to get it over with. This is like, everyone wants the same thing. Everyone reaches for the same goal, and you feel the competitiveness. I personally like it. It pushes me to do better, and it also inspires me. It makes me realize what other people are working on. It makes me, I don't know, it pushes me more than anything, but sometimes it does happen where you have a breakdown. Something else is I would definitely study at school, because when you're at school, you really feel all the creativeness coming out of everyone. So you're really motivated and you're really pushed. Anyway, now it is time for me to show you guys my portfolio for term 1, which at the end, I think you're supposed to have 25 to 40 pages, which is quite a bit. Anyway, shall we start? So here we are, IPF Unit 1 portfolio. So for every week and rotation, you have to indicate which one you're presenting. So something that they will stress about all year long is research. Research is much more important than final outcome because they want to see your development work. And in some cases, for example, media rotation 1, you're actually not really doing a final outcome. You're only presenting research. You can show test shoots and you can show test trials, but there's no final outcome per se. So research is the most important thing that they will tell you about and that they will talk about, and you have to listen when they talk about research. Anyway, that's all they talk about, so I'm sure you won't miss it. So for media rotation 1, we had to discover and do research about a chosen sense. Now these are not only the 5 senses, like taste, touch, smell. You can do those absolutely, but there's also many more senses that you don't really think about. For example, I did stress and anxiety, which people are gonna come at me saying it's not a sense, but technically it is. So you can do like kind of like subsenses like that. A lot of people did synesthesia, which is like associating like colors to smells and like numbers to colors, all of that kind of stuff. Anyway, so this is page 1. I did some secondary research, a lot of art, so photography, painting, even poetry. I included poetry. And then I just annotated. Annotation is also super important because if you just throw a bunch of pictures on the page, they're not going to understand where your ideas are coming from. So this is my second page, which was artists who explored the sense that I was doing. So these were 2 artists that explored anxiety. If something speaks to you on an image, don't just put arrows. As you can tell, I put arrows, which is fine, but you don't want to only put arrows. So for example, that picture bottom left, that image was about walking on eggshells, but instead of just putting an arrow and circling the eggshells, to make it important, I just drew over the eggshells and then made them drag along the page to emphasize importance on the eggshells. Then afterwards, more research, more art, more confusion. Then came my test shoot that I did for rotation 1. So if you look back at page 3 and 4, you can tell that the messiness kind of ties back into the string that I used. And then on the side, I kind of just put, "Don't mind me hanging on by a thread." And then here another test picture with a poem that I wrote, which says, "I am bringing my worries to bed, my raining thoughts in my head. This worrying almost fled, but pulling me back by a thread. Just 3 deep breaths, carefree is the dance of death. Don't overthink or worry, it will shrink and become blurry. Fear growing up, it's crystal clear, you're closing up." Yeah. And then here was another test shoot I did with string and post-its and a chair. And then to start rotation 2 in media, our homework was to do a further research page on our chosen scents, just more pictures and paintings. And then another thing, you Harvard reference everything in your portfolio. So this was my bibliography for rotation 1. Now comes media rotation 2. So I did a little brainstorm about stress, and I incorporated a mood board and a color palette for my final outcome, because in rotation 2 media you will have to do a final outcome. Here was another mood board I did about poses I could use and also props that I could use. Again, see certain poses that I like, I outlined them. I incorporated some drawings that I did not want to incorporate, but when I showed these to my teacher, he was like, put them in because they have character. So I put them in. And then here I just incorporated a contact sheet, which is just a bunch of pictures that I took that I kind of debated using but didn't end up using. And then here again, the final outcome pictures that I'm basically pulling apart and annotating to explain my final outcome. And then here is my real final outcome. Tired of being tired, game over. I use pins and tights for stress, like the physical motion of stress, but also pins because pins and needles is what I get when I start to get anxious. And then here, contemporary therapy, finding solutions without talking. I used bubblegum and a cigarette to show kind of the fear and stress that comes with growing up. So bubblegum wanting to still be a child, but also the cigarette trying to be an adult. And then on the picture on the right, you see I have a glove and a band-aid over the glove with a pin popping the bubble gum. And the reason I put a band-aid over the glove is because when you're stressed, you want to do everything right, and so you're scared of hurting yourself. Anyway, it's like a whole concept. You'd have to read my whole portfolio in depth to understand it. And again, bibliography. Now comes business rotation 1. So for business rotation 1, you had to create a brand. So the first page is just my cover page with my brand name, which I decided to call Kalu, and it's a sandals brand, so my slogan is sandals you can handle. Here was my introduction, where you just introduce your brand and you introduce your values. Then we worked on customer profile. So customer profile is basically the exact person that you want to satisfy. So for me, it was a woman 18 to 25 years old. She lives in Paris. She's kind of an introvert, but when you get to know her, she becomes an extrovert. She's kind of that classic French elegance that you find. Next, you do trend forecasting. So this was my mood board for color and print forecasting for spring summer 2023, because my sandals were to be released in spring summer 2023. And then another page was footwear trend predictions, so the type of sandals that would be in style in spring summer 2023. Then you do a range plan, which you guys actually saw me working on in a previous vlog, I'm pretty sure. These were tricky to make. You had to make them on Illustrator, if I'm not wrong. Yes, Illustrator. They're basically just flat drawings of what you're selling. I thought this was pretty fun. I actually really enjoyed this. This is what made me wonder if I should go into business. And then you just conclude your brand with a paragraph, kind of explain what you did throughout the report. And then of course, bibliography. Business rotation 2. For business rotation 2, we talked about technology and how we can incorporate it in brands that exist today. So for me, I chose to do Ted Baker. So here's just the introduction of what Ted Baker is. We did a SWOT analysis. If you don't know what a SWOT analysis is, it is strength, weakness, opportunity, and threats to a brand. We also had to incorporate primary and secondary research. So I actually went to the store and shared my experience. And then I also compared Ted Baker with other brands. And then here comes the technology part. You have to create a technology product or service that the brand can use to help their brand, help their image, help their sales, all that. So I created a digital hang tag. So the concept was it would show stock availability, it would show different colors, it would show different sizes. And like that, you don't need as many sales associates in the store because all the information that customers usually ask for are on the hang tag. And then here was how I would advertise the hang tag. Just large posters in our store saying, come in, check out our new hang tags. And then, of course, conclusion. Always conclude your business reports. And then bibliography. And here comes the catastrophe that I wish I could redo. Design rotation 1. So there was no rotation 2 because that is the pathway that I dropped. Let me tell you how much stress this week brought me and how confused I was, so please don't judge. So for design rotation 1, we did paper manipulation. So we weaved, we crumbled, we cut, we did all types of different manipulations. And we had to basically work with those on a white shirt and create designs. It was very, very hard. And you really have to have the mind for it, which is difficult for me. I don't know why it was so difficult. I was so excited for design, but anyway. My theme was the desert, so I just put a quote on top. There's some of my paper manipulations, so they're cracked, they're dry, they're crumbled, and it looked like desert to me. Page 2, more research. I also incorporated Balenciaga because they did a collection related to desert, and then more broken things and cracked paintings. Page 4, horrible, I'm so sorry. Design development. I just overlaid designs over top of my paper manipulations. Did some drawings. You have to incorporate drawings because you take drawing classes and drawings are a part of your assessment. So you have to draw in your portfolio. And then for the last page, I did not know what to do because the minimum was 4 pages and I only had 3 pages and I was struggling. So my teacher was like, just take it into a business direction. Just make a storefront and take the desert, take your designs and design a storefront. So that's what I did. I also designed a bag and a shoebox. Those cracks in the bags and shoebox are 3D cutouts, and then my storefront was basically cracked floor and then cracked pieces falling from the sky, but also shoes falling from the sky. It was a weird concept. And then bibliography. And that was my term 1 portfolio for international preparation for fashion. Anyway, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. If you have anything you want to see or any video suggestions, also leave them down below. But anyway, thank you so much for watching and I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye! Also, happy fucking New Year!